Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve, on this glorious winter day
Yes,
in July?
It is very wintry, isn't it, Ben? Hello, Ben. Hello, FiST Chat fans. Looking forward very much to discussing today's very highly innovative topics.
Absolutely. We've got quite a few to get through today rather than just focusing on one big one, which just for a change of pace. But before we get into that, our usual housekeeping, don't forget our website, fistchat.com. You can get all our links there. You can subscribe to our audio via iTunes, SoundCloud, and our RSS feeds. Videos on YouTube, Vimeo, and Digicosm TV. You can interact with us on social media, Twitter, Google+, and Facebook, so I'd love to hear from you there. We've got our ebook, The FiST Report, at fistreport.com, available through Amazon, 99 cents. Great read and helps to support the show. And we've also got our supplementary content, the weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And recommend us to anyone who you think may be interested in our positive ramblings on film, science, and technology every week. Now, we've got a number of topics to go through today, and they're all sort of curious, quirky, and interesting in their own unique ways, which is always good. We love that sort of thing on FiST Chat. Let's start with, from Discovery News, carbon dioxide turned into electricity. Humans generate billions of tons of carbon dioxide every year. A group of researchers in the Netherlands asked whether it would be better to use the gas to generate power rather than letting it end up in the atmosphere, where it can do more harm than good. Seems perfectly reasonable to me to make at least the statement. Obviously there'd be a bit more involved in actually making it happen. And obviously this article goes through, what they've done with that, and we can get to that in a minute. But what do you think, Steve? Is this just pulling an idea out of nowhere, or is there something to it?
Well, it is pulling an idea out of nowhere, and that's what I like. There's a pressure on them to pull this idea out of nowhere too. Obviously, we don't need to talk or explain what the problems with CO2 are and building up in the atmosphere. We've done that enough on FiST Chat anyway. But this and the next topic, Ben, as well, both sort of segue into that limits for growth discussion we've been sort of segueing into and out of in the last few weeks. And it's very interesting. When we actually have these pressures on us to be innovative and to solve issues that we have, humans are actually very good at doing it. So why wouldn't you? Now, converting CO2 into electricity is not so easy, okay? Because it has to be captured or it has to be used in a way where we can create that electricity. But the fact that people are thinking about it means that it can happen. And we've shown time and time again in human history that when we think about, how can I make a better motor car or use the wheel better perhaps, we get great inventions. So I'll be very interested to see where this is going.
Well, I think just like as a concept, the thing that I liked about this is the idea of it's like a recycling type thing. We produce, and this will segue into the next topic as well, the idea of, a waste product being turned into something usable and tangible, and it kind of goes in a circle in terms of how it all gets used.
Well, there are big predictions that the industry to get into now, it will be recycling. It'll be recycling of absolutely anything, because if we keep going at the rate we're going, there are going to be a lot of resources that are basically waste, or, things that we're throwing away, whether they're small items, old television sets or cars or whatever. They're saying that the gold mines of the future will actually be the rubbish tips of today. So
waste will be the new oil, won't it?
Waste will be the new oil, and we'll be able to extract metals, elements, you name it, that we'll be able to reuse. I mean, yes. The Doc in Back to the Future, already on the DeLorean when he came back the second time, had a waste converter on it. Why wouldn't you, Ben? Well, this is it.
If we follow the Back to the Future timeline, we're only 2 years away from that.
Yeah, but we're a long way past DeLoreans.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we might segue into the other topic we have here from Discovery News, and this is literally about how waste powers something. Urine powers mobile phone. British scientists say they have harnessed the power of urine and are able to charge a mobile phone with enough electricity to send text and surf the internet. Researchers from the University of Bristol and Bristol Robotics Laboratory in southwest England said they created a fuel cell that uses bacteria to break down urine to generate electricity. Now, I almost had this picture that, we've all got obviously toilets in our in our primary residence. The idea that you could go there, obviously use the facilities, and then that becomes a electricity generator. If you extend it a little bit further, they're talking about a mobile phone here, but you could use it for that. That's amazing, really.
It's only amazing because we're not already doing it.
Yeah.
Look, the reality is that once this technology comes online, firstly, for anything that's innovation like this, there's three things that typically go with it. One, it has to work. Two, there has to be a market for it, and three, the public has to accept it.
Yeah.
Right, and we're probably not in that phase where urinating into our mobile phones, is seen as a reasonable way to generate the power for it. However, just imagine in a post-apocalyptic world, Ben, where that's the only way you're going to power your mobile phone. People would be quite happy to do it. So, if we hit a limits to growth, if there's a reduction in energy, if you can't afford energy out of the power point in your wall, it makes a lot of sense to generate it yourself. And when it comes to recycling of waste, it's something that we've done very poorly. I mean, we flush our waste away with litres of water to treatment plants, where at least today the treatment plants are very high tech and do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But if we took that responsibility back ourselves, we could actually generate, and people get very upset about this because it's a topic about waste, but you could regenerate highly purified water for your own consumption, as well as a whole range of other compounds that'd be good in the garden and may well power, 30% of your house. And with power bills the way they are, I can tell you, give it a bit of time, people are going to be more than happy with generating their own electricity in this way.
Yeah, snap some solar panels on and you might just be totally covered.
Exactly. And why wouldn't you?
Exactly. I think the main idea that sort of covers both of these topics, I think that's quite interesting, is this idea that energy is sort of being transferred from one form to another. And I think what is going from here is that it's like we transform it from one to the other and create waste product, but then there's this idea that we can then almost transfer it back. Which there really should be more work put into this to just for our lifestyles, because as we've discussed many times before, and with that limits to growth thing, we can't continue to use our planet's resources the way they are without them running out sort of exponentially fast.
That's right. We do use them very wastefully. I mean, it's fair to say we didn't know better before, but now we do. And it's surprising that this sort of work is only happening now. Although recycling in some parts of the world has been very good for the past 20 or 30 years. But if you think about, all the glass that was thrown away, through the last century, and all the other things that were just metal toys or things that people just threw away and are buried now, they all contain elements that have come from the earth. So maybe we should start mapping them out and laying claim to them.
Yeah, exactly, and make a small fortune in the process. All right, we might move on because we've got a few more topics to cover. We'll segue into some news bites now. Our film news bite I thought was highly amusing. Hollywood studios' message to executives: embrace digital or die. This was listed in the Yahoo Movie News, and I mean, there's a bit of technical detail about, which executives got picked up at which studios and whatever else. You can probably Google that and read that up yourselves. It's not really that interesting, the detail. What was interesting was that Hollywood seems to be hiring people that are embracing all of these new technologies, and specifically that don't have experience in traditional production and distribution. And, it's kind of full circle to me. I mean, I always remember those early days, late 90s, early 2000s, when, everyone was, the traditional industry was up in arms about digital and all that. Now it's a fait accompli kind of thing. It's all in the can pretty much. It is pretty much all digital now. And this is just a reflection, is this the industry trying to adapt to the new environment? I mean, the tagline "Embrace digital or die" is all well and good. I was thinking "Embrace creativity and originality or die," but maybe that's too much to ask for.
Look, Ben, I think over the last probably 40 years, there's been generational coups in Hollywood. So you had the great script writing, you had the originality and creativity, throughout the 70s. And that was replaced in 80s by the original corporate era of Hollywood, and this is now the digital generation. Basically purging the last of the film moguls, probably.
Yeah, probably. Who knows where this will go? We're in a kind of funny period with the industry, I think, where they really have put the brakes on making anything truly sort of innovative in terms of what's coming out in movies. It's really turned into product. And, I mean, you can't blame them. They've always done that. It's just that now it's becoming much more obvious. And, like we were mentioning a couple of weeks back, whether Spielberg and Lucas's predictions come true or not remains to be seen. But you can see that they've got some merit in that.
Well, yeah, they would have probably been pointing this up. They knew what was going on, and that's probably what they were saying.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll move on to our science news bite from CNN. Bit of a curious one. World's oldest water tastes terrible, and it's a bit of an opinion piece, but it was water that had been dug up in Canada that was somewhere between 1 and 2.6 billion years old, and tasted very salty and not very pleasant. From what I gathered, though, from this story, the significance is really in terms of Mars, actually, the idea that there might be some water somewhere underneath the surface of Mars, and this could be an example of what they might find if they ever get around to it.
It's water, Ben, but not as we know it.
Yes.
So the reason the water would taste terrible is because of the chemical composition back then, the minerals and other things that you find in water back in those times, and that really is that's pretty much half the Earth's life's back, roughly. It's a long way back once you go into billions of years. Would have been radically different to what it is today. Yeah. So that's why it would probably taste terrible. It's probably got a lot of minerals that you probably don't find, and a lot of structures in that today you wouldn't have with our water system. And on Mars, certainly, just like Earth being a rocky planet, there are probably aquifers below the surface that may not actually, be frozen. They might be preserved as liquid because they could be under pressure. So it's quite possible then that, that might be what we're going to be drinking on Mars when we get there.
And we better get used to it, unless we bring all those purifiers over.
I must say, just on that, having drunk water from rivers in the Himalaya where they have glaciers up high and all sorts of, rock up there, it tastes very minerally, not very nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if we can do that live on FiST Chat one day, maybe. All right. And final story today, Tech News Bite: Robots, the future of elder care. Again from CNN. Would you let a robot take over as a live-in nurse for your aging parent or grandparent? In 2050, the elderly will account for 16% of the global population. That's 1.5 billion people over the age of 65, according to the Population Reference Bureau. Caring for those seniors, physically, emotionally, and mentally, will be an enormous undertaking, and experts say there will be a shortage of professionals trained and willing to take on the job. Enter the elder care robot.
Which is also the same robot that'll be helping people out on the battlefield.
Well, they find so all those movies that we've been watching, of robots sort of becoming a fixture in everyday life in society. This is actually going to happen.
Well, I'm actually joking about that because there was the Atlas robot that people were saying, looked like a Terminator, which the US military are using, but they're saying no, it's going to help people,
right?
Generally, but in all seriousness, though, I can well believe it. robots now are suitably advanced. And once again, the robots today are rudimentary compared to where they'll be in another 20 or 30 years. But in 20 or 30 years, they'll be humanoid. They will be functional enough to help us around the home. They'll be commercially viable as well. And then, as I said before at the start, the third thing that matters is, will the public accept them? And I believe at some stage we will, because if 15% of the population will be of that elderly age requiring assistance, that means they need another 15% of the population to do that. That's 30% of the population,
taken out.
That's, we will be more accepting of robots, and robots will be more able to do things that will actually be useful for us.
Well, it's not too hard to imagine anyway, because, generations are growing up now with technology literally at their fingertips pretty much from when they're born on almost. So they're probably not going to be too sort of freaked out by the idea of a robot sort of interacting with them and looking after them.
Well, when I used to do robot demonstrations in classrooms with students in primary school, I used to ask them this particular question, which was, in another, your children will probably be able to have robots and babysitters. Would you like a robot to babysit you? And the kids would go, yeah, that's great. And I'd say, well, what about, when you get older, would you like a robot to be your friend and help you out? And they'd all say yes. So
as long as
the kids that in 2050 will be using robots.
As long as these robots don't malfunction in any way.
Well, if they follow the 3 laws of robotics, they should be able to protect ourselves from them, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
Anytime, FiST Chat fans, tweet us if you're recycling any of your own waste. We'd be very interested to find out.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you next time.